Do.
Here we go.
Youth Alive Live.
Hey, hello, Youth Alive and Youth Pastor World. Man, welcome to the third edition of the Youth Alive Roundtables online, where we get some youth pastors together and we just kind of talk about schools, what's going on the campus, what's happening in youth ministry, and really just take about 40-45 minutes here and just download and talk about what's going on. Today I've got two of my friends with me, great friends of mine, and I'm really, really excited about them. I've got a friend, Andrew Lahan. Andrew, why don't you say hello?
Hello, everybody.
Andrew is a funny guy, and he used to travel with me for about 2.5, 3 years with Youth Alive. Knows schools, knows all that. Reason why Andrew's on the call today is because he's a new, fresh youth pastor in Carrollton at a church called Freedom Life. And he's got a lot of access points into the school, and he's kind of that newbie. He's got a lot of questions, students starting campus clubs, all that. And I just wanted to honestly help Andrew today. On the call with us is one of my real good friends the last couple of years, Lucas Levitt. Lucas is from McKinney Genesis Church, and Lucas probably out of North Texas does campus clubs as good, if not better, than anybody I've seen. Lucas will tell you how many campuses they have on each of their schools. He'll talk about their movement they call JCM, which is Jesus Club Movement, and just doing tremendous things on the campus. And so with Andrew kind of being the rookie and Lucas kind of being the veteran, I wanted to pair the two today, put a broadcast out there. Tyler and I, Tyler's always here with us. Everybody say hello to Tyler. Hi, Tyler. Tyler's there, and him and I would jump in and be a part of the conversation as well to make this thing flow. And we wanted you to listen in today. And here's the topic. What are we doing to reach the campus through clubs, specifically that FCA group, that Bible club, Youth Alive Club, some people call it Students for Christ, whatever that is, students meeting on the campus, whether before school, during lunch, or after school, to talk about Jesus, share their faith, win their friends to Christ, and even serve the school, do service projects. So that's the topic. It's on the table, campus clubs. Andrew, welcome to the call. And why don't you kick us off with some questions?
Yeah, probably just the first thing to start off is, Lucas, I definitely want your perspective on, you're obviously very involved, just what a campus club is, and broken down, like, what's the objective?
Yeah, well, definitely, I think the main thing for us is, and for any student ministry, is with campus clubs, is equipping the students to lead a campus club, basically with their friends, classmates, and just make Jesus known on their campus. So they usually meet before, sometimes during lunch break, or maybe after school. And basically, what they do is they're just there to preach the gospel, to be like-minded with Christ on the campus, and to be hands and feet of Jesus for their classmates and for their teachers and the faculty there on their campus. So,
I guess probably my next question is, I mean, obviously this is taking place on a school campus, and I think I'm not the only one that would ask this or that thinks this, but, you know, especially public schools being how they are, like, how do you even get to the campus? Like, how do you even get that door into a campus or to make something like this happen?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the main things is that it's our right. You know, and that's one of the greatest things about living in the country that we live in, is that at this time we still have religious freedom to an extent, and so you know, it is our right to assemble there on the campus, and that's why most campus clubs here in our area are actually before or after the bell rings, and so that therefore they do have the right to meet just like any other club would meet. And so if they're able to present that to the faculty and the administration, and they have that game plan of, hey, we have this teacher sponsor, it's going to be student-led, we're not going to bring in, say, youth pastor from this church, and they're not going to lead the club, but it's actually student-led clubs, then they have that right to assemble there, and they have that right to hold that club on their campus. And so that's the first step, is just kind of gearing up and knowing who's going to be the leaders of the club, knowing who's going to be the teacher sponsor.
So it's more like, it's more, I guess I'm saying, it's more like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kicked off by students.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Because what I've learned before is that if you go in with this whole agenda from a church or agenda from a pastor or agenda from an organization, students or schools don't want that. Schools want to equip their students, and they're looking to do that. They're not looking to bring in extra pieces from outside to do that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Lucas, let me jump in here to help answer that. Kind of the way I've simply answered that question, Andrew, over the last few years is, number one, a club has to be started, number one, initiated by a student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A club also needs to be supported by a parent. So the parents of these students have to have their back. They've got to be willing to go to the principal.
What do you mean by that, like, as far as the parent part goes?
The parent, in case there's a hiccup, the parent has to be on that side because the parent has more authority on the campus than the youth pastor does.
Yeah.
Yep,
So the parent needs to support that, and you need to talk to the parents about their students doing the school. So it needs to be supported. It doesn't mean the parents really do anything. It just means that they're there as kind of a bridge between the student and the faculty of the school.
Okay.
The third thing it needs to be youth pastor driven. So if it's student initiated, parent supported, youth pastor driven, that means you, the youth pastor, have to be there to rah-rah, cheer them on, give them resources and tools. And I know Luke is going to get into that, but it really takes all three elements there to make a campus club successful.
Yeah.
So you guys have got it kicked off good. I like it. Andrew, you jumped right into questions. Let's just take 30 seconds each. And Andrew, tell us where you're at as far as what you're wanting to do, what you envision.
Yeah.
Lucas, tell us where you're at after Andrew. Where you at as far as schools? You don't even have to give us names, but how many, what are the club sizes, kind of all that stuff. Let's just get a little background from both of you.
Yeah, so right now, out here in Carrollton, and I mean, there's just schools everywhere. There's a lot of big schools. Haven't had much of a chance to get into high schools yet, but right now, I've got 2 middle schools and 1 high school that I do have an open door to. One middle school being Arbor Creek, which is awesome. I was actually there this morning trying to get involved in the FCA. The 2 middle schools, actually all 3 of the schools I have access to, very, very FCA-based campus clubs, which I'll get to. I have a question about that later. But one of them, so Arbor Creek is a middle school, and they've got just an awesome FCA program. I mean, there's probably 75 students at each one every Thursday morning, and it's great. Most of them are probably all in church. I'd like to see it become more of an outreach. It seems really rushed in the morning, but I'm having a hard time kind of getting my hands in with them. They love it when I'm there. They love that I'll come help. I'll help lead like a 6th grade group, and maybe that's all I ever do, but I definitely would like more involvement with them. The other one is one that I see a lot of potential in. It's a small FCA group that hasn't really been around long, and they don't really have much structure, and it's ran by a coach, but it's open for everybody. The other one's open for everybody too. But anyways, I'm just trying to figure out how to kind of not step in as this youth pastor superhero trying to take over or anything. I just want to get my hands in as much as possible to be around students and to have the schools back. Kind of where I'm at.
No. Cool. Well, I'm just a little bit north of Andrew, McKinney, and the surrounding areas there, and so North Texas, and it's kind of the same thing with Andrew. We got a lot of big schools here, a lot of middle schools, a lot of elementary schools, and a lot of high schools. I mean, we have 3 major high schools with I think the smallest one's a 5A school, all within 5 miles of our church campus, and so we have lots of schools that we have open doors to, and a lot of teachers, different things like that attend our church. Currently, we have 5 school clubs up and going at the 3 high schools here in McKinney, as well as one of the junior highs. And then we actually have a home group, our homeschool co-op, that we have a JCM club at, which is what our campus clubs are called. And so we definitely have a wide array of different students that attend, and we can have anywhere from about 75 to 100 students per week attending these school clubs. And so it's an awesome ministry that our students run. And the other thing is we have a lot of students that is a little bit different. We have a lot of students that run these clubs that don't attend our church. And so we really are trying to be a community-wide just a resource to any club leader, anything that they want to do and see on their campus. For Christ, we want to be able to back and give them the resources for. So
that's good. That's good, Lucas. Jumping in, I know this is probably going to be one of Andrew's questions, and I'll feed it. You can answer it. I've been to a lot of your clubs in McKinney area, whether it's junior high or high school. Talk to us a little bit about what that club looks like in that 30 minutes, that 45-minute slot. What kind of is the content, and how do you guys do that?
Yeah, definitely the number one thing is that we try to have more than one leader per club, and then we try to equip them in order to do different parts of their club curriculum. And so some students might be over games, some students might be over the promotion of the club, some students might be over the teaching. They're able to choose their curriculum as long as it's based scriptural. It's not denomination based. They're not going to get into any gray areas, stuff like that. But basically, they go in, welcome, play games for about the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then they'll take roll, stuff like that, just to kind of have a head count of who was there and be able to follow up with them. But then they get into the message after that, and then literally between 25 and 30 minutes, they're out of there. And majority of our clubs actually happen at the end of school, and so it's after the bell rings, and it's normally in one of the main, like the choir room, something like that. And so we definitely believe in environment, and environment goes a long way. And so having a good environment, big environment, will help the growth, and definitely help you do better games, things that kids and students are going to love going to and being a part of. But and then we also bring in guest speakers, stuff like that. But the main thing is always a fun element, always a serious element, and then always some kind of like outreach sometime during that quarter of the year, something like that. So
do you think it's more convenient having it after school? Like, does that? I almost feel like that gives you a little more freedom, not to go super long, but there's not as much. So the FCA that I was at this morning, it's great, it's awesome, they're doing great, but two teachers run it mainly, and they've got a handful of student leaders. I'll come in and speak sometimes, which is great, but they almost seem very like antsy, very rushed, because it's in the morning. I mean, right before classes, right before everything, and so is it just does it feel more relaxed when it's in an after school setting?
What I've experienced is there's pros and cons to both. I mean, in the mornings, the pros are you're probably going to get more students, because they have to be there. A lot of them get there early from the bus or whatever. After school, might not have that. They leave, they do different things, and so they might not be able to be there. But the benefit of after school is, just like I said, you get more freedom. Guest speakers, you don't have to have a guest speaker arrive at 7 in the morning. They can get there at 3 in the afternoon, and so it's a little bit freeing for that, and the curriculum stuff, games, things like that. You can do more, but there's pros and cons to both. So I've seen donuts work in the morning, and that brings in hundreds of students.
Oh yeah, that's all they want, man. That's all ours want.
So yeah, it definitely depends on the school. It depends on the teacher. So
cool.
Yeah, Andrew, let me tag in on that. What I would like to see, and I've never really seen anybody do this, and a lot of it's school driven as far as the principal may not allow it, is if you're really going to reach, you take one of your middle schools in Carrollton, it's at least going to have 1,000 students.
Yeah.
So that one campus club on Wednesday morning is not going to reach everybody.
Yeah.
So what if we thought bigger, and we said, hey, we're going to have a Wednesday morning, a Friday morning, and maybe a Monday morning with different leaders that presented different things that reach more people. So you might have one before school, one after school, one during lunch, different days of the week, because one club's not going to reach it all.
Yeah. I've got a good question about something like that, but I want to wait to ask it.
Okay.
Two quick things that just kind of getting back to it is like, Lucas, you talked about environment. I'm just curious, real quick, as far as environment goes, you talked about kind of the feel of it, but what the environment at the campus clubs that you're involved with, your students are involved with, whatever, how is it there as far as, unchurched student, like it being open to the campus, you know what I mean, or like the effectiveness there, and or what are you doing to create the environment, like the inviting environment to have students actually come in there that maybe don't know Jesus or don't know Jesus well, or is it just a bunch of church kids hanging out? You know?
Yeah, and honestly, that's something that we run into a lot and we have to coach our students on is how do you communicate to a crowd that you have somebody that loves Jesus and you have somebody who might hate Jesus. I mean, that's honestly what we're facing today in our schools, and so we really have to take it as an approach of kind of along the lines of cautious, but at the same time very truthful. And I think that's always the biggest thing. And so what we'll do is we'll communicate to our students. When you're communicating, just be truthful about what God's done in your life and what you've seen, and not so much preachy as to, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And so I think the way that our students communicate in the clubs is a huge part of that. And another thing that we do, we really try to make the room itself inviting. And so make sure that there's music going when kids are coming in. Make sure that it's something that is just not like any other club when they walk in. So it's going to be something happening, something that they're going to have fun in. And then also the room setup. Room setup's huge. I mean, we had one club that was meeting in a class that had round tables for the desk, and they were all facing different directions, and tried meeting there, and it just failed miserably. I mean, no one would pay attention. And so we had to I had to talk to our guys and be like, hey, when y'all go in, be sure y'all get in there 5 minutes before everyone else. Y'all are clearing out the desk. Y'all are setting up the chairs, facing the central location, and open areas so games can be played, stuff like that. And so those are the little things that really can help hook somebody and catch them and keep them in that club, because it's something different than just going to a normal classroom and hearing somebody preach about Jesus. It's somebody actually talking about it. So,
do your students, or whoever's leading it up, or even you, do you guys do any like special elements? Like, do you guys do like a donuts type thing, or any kind of food snack, or kind of explain to me your, I don't know, I guess your system of the special elements that could maybe bring somebody in or draw somebody in.
Yeah, definitely.
Or things that you guys do on like a regular occasion.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the main things we do is we try to kick off every semester with a pizza party.
Awesome.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of just one thing that we always do. We have a deal with one of the local Domino's, $5 large pizzas. We get like the school discount with them. And so we do that for almost every club.
Is that kind of like of your church budget or your youth budget, or is that something the school?
It is our church budget, and so basically we have them submit resource requests for us, and so pretty much every quarter they're submitting in, hey, this event's going to happen, we're expecting $50 for pizzas, $50 for drinks or whatever, and so we have that kind of budgeted in, and then parents can help with that too, and the parent supporters, like Kyle was saying, that's one reason to have parents involved, and so they'll do that, and then we'll do pizza for them. But then we'll also print out special flyers for that event to start off the semester. We'll have that going a few weeks before, so they know. I mean, we've seen upwards of, I think, about 100 and something people on one of our campus clubs because we were giving out pizza. And so, I mean, it is a draw, but at the same time, what you do to get them there, you have to keep doing to keep them there. And so we need to be sure to come back and with that the good hook of what the club's actually about in that special meeting. So we do that. Donuts, we do that occasionally. We don't really meet in the morning, but we have done some stuff like that. Cookies, stuff along those lines. But then also we'll bring in like a big speaker and say, hey, we're playing Hungry Hippos this day, or we're having battle of the classes. So seniors versus freshmen, juniors versus whatever. So we've done stuff like that, and it definitely helps bring in new phases.
Yeah, I feel like I read something about not trusting donuts from the afternoon.
Not the chocolate kind.
Trust an afternoon donut.
Hey, Andrew, let me pause in there a little bit, pop in there. I like what Lucas said about the tone of the club not preaching. What I've seen is when students at a campus club try to do church, like sing 4 or 5 worship songs, and somebody come up and rip up a sermon and stuff. It's just a little bit, I don't know, awkward is the right word. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
What I always said is campus club is a bridge to get them to church. It's a bridge to get them to that environment. So we're not trying to reenact our youth service on a school campus. We're trying to strategically, like Lucas said, create an environment for them to ask questions, connect with their friends, pull them closer to God, and get them into church.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good way to look at it, Kyle, is that I view our clubs as a ministry, not a church service or a social club.
Yeah.
And so it really is a ministry. And so any effective ministry, you're going to have that bridge. So
going back to kind of the beginning of the conversation as far as getting in the schools, I feel like you kind of answered this, and I feel like I don't know, might know the answer to this, but just wrote this down. You guys talked about it. It's definitely student-led, student-initiated. But like, is it somewhere where like I, as a youth pastor, do I need to deal with the principal as far as my involvement, or do I need to deal with the principal at all, or be affiliated with he or she, or as far as like your presence on the campus? As a youth pastor, like, what do you need to do? Because you don't want to just be some strange adult hanging around or trying, and just, especially in like the starting phase of a campus club, like, do I need to directly affiliate myself with the principal and whatever?
I think that's good to do, even if you have a campus club or not. I mean, honestly, that can open up doors to schools that you never thought you had a door to. And so one thing we try to do is give out baskets to the faculty at some of the main schools around us, and so within like a 5-mile radius of us. And so at the beginning of the school year, we'll bring them a gift basket and just simply have a card that says, "Hey, we appreciate you guys."
What do you put in those gift baskets?
What's that?
What do you put in those gift baskets?
Man, we try to do some really cool stuff. So like little popcorn, like bags of popcorn, some candies, hot cocoa, different things like that. And so we spend about $15 a basket, $20 a basket. So nothing huge. Maybe some cake pops for the secretaries and stuff like that.
We got over Easter eggs.
What's that? Over Easter. There you go, man. And so yeah, we do that, and we're just trying to get in there and let them see our face. And basically just say, hey, we're here for you guys. We love y'all. We support y'all. And if there's anything y'all need, we don't go in there saying, hey, we're part of JCM, which is our campus club. We don't go in there saying, hey, we're part of this. We expect y'all to open up the door for us and all this stuff. We rarely even put on their JCM as from those baskets. We put on there our church. And that way when they come, they're going to see us. They're going to know us based off our church, not the campus club, and then they can make that connection. So,
have you faced but through that though, have you faced any kind of opposition from a principal or faculty member?
I think the biggest opposition we faced has been what's the need for another Christian club, and so there is an FCA club or something, the Youth Alive or whatever kind of club that's meeting on the campus. Why is there a need for another club? And it kind of goes back to what Kyle was saying. The FCA is great. We support them whenever we can. And if there's some kids that we have that go to schools that they help lead their FCA clubs, and we support that. But the other side of it is not everyone can go to an FCA club. And some of them are so, the verbiage for them is some people still think they're just for athletes. And so we come back and we start a campus club that's not just for athletes, and it meets in the afternoon, etc. And so we've run into opposition, but all we've had to do is kind of prove that it's a different club, meeting at a different time with a different target audience, and that's kind of helped us around that with the principals and administration. So,
Kyle, I'm definitely interested to hear from you too, as far as like you've been around a ton of youth pastors, and like what is some stuff you've seen as far as opposition involving campus clubs?
Yeah, let me kind of answer what Lucas was saying first. In each school has a different culture. They have a different vibe. And so as a youth pastor, you really got to get in there and kind of feel the layout of the land, to where they may have an FCA, they may have a Students for Christ, they may have Cowboys for Jesus or whatever. And in that, you'll find out that some may be weak, some may be strong. I've seen on campuses where the FCA actually wanted to join Youth Alive. The Cowboys for Jesus wanted to join, and there's like this merging, because it all really revolves around one thing, and that's leadership. If there's a strong leader, the club will survive and do well. If there's weak leaders and they don't want to do it and there's no vision, then it's going to really crumble and be weak. So all that to say, I would just snoop around the campus, if you will, find out what's going on, and that'll help you understand kind of what you need to do.
Yeah.
As far as your question of like some of the stuff going on, really, if a student goes to a principal I've found wants to empower the student instead of tear them down and deny them. So very rarely in 8 years of me doing Youth Alive, maybe we've come across maybe 2 or 3 that the principal said no, they can't do the club. So if there's good intentions, you've lined it out, the parameters and the details of what this club's going to be, like Lucas said, then man, the principal usually gives a thumbs up.
Cool.
Yeah.
One question. So for me, I don't have. I have a couple of students that are involved in these FCAs. One of them, I have one main student in each of the 2 middle schools that I work with almost every week. They're both FCA. Both are open to beyond just athletes. But other than that, I have some students that go, but I don't have a lot of involvement, and they're not. They're clubs not created by our students, which they don't have to be. That's fine. But for me, I think one big question I have is like, what do you do? Like how like what approach do I take to getting students behind a campus club, and then getting students committed to a campus club? Because I mean, sometimes like it's hard enough to get them here on a Wednesday night, right? Like even some of our core kids, it's hard. They're just so busy all the time. So to add one more thing to their schedule, or that they're responsible for, I definitely want to see more involvement from our students in those clubs. But how can I help get them committed and behind what's happening?
2 words: Kyle Embry. No, I'm joking. But bringing him in is great. But also here's the thing that I've learned so much is that you have to give them the why. And before you ask them the how and the when and the where and all this stuff and start trying to get them on board with those things, you have to ask them the why. And that has to become what they're passionate about. Because I've noticed over the few years I've been, over these campus clubs for 3 years now, what I've noticed in just this short time is if a leader's not passionate for it, it's not going to succeed. And so they have to have that why ingrained in them and instilled in them. And so preaching on it. I mean, honestly, we set the culture of our youth groups. And so what we can do is we can give them the why on a Wednesday night. And then come back into applications the how. And so here's how you're going to do this stuff. Here's how you're going to win your friends. Here's how you're going to do reach your campus. Start a FCA. Start a Youth Alive club. Start one of these clubs, and gather a few friends, get together, and let's see this thing happen. And so you start that why in their heart, or you get them more passionate about what they're already involved in. Simply by talking to them. Relationships drive leadership, and so with influence especially, look for those kids that have the influence on their campus, and that's who you want to go to and say, hey, what can we start on your campus that's going to make a difference? And if they get behind it, man, you're going to have tons of students getting involved with it and build a momentum for it. So
with that, what's up?
Andrew, let me hop in here. And I want to send this to all youth pastors watching this, all 142 youth pastors that are watching this broadcast right now. I just want to say, if you're not raising up student leaders to go to their school, start clubs, then you're just missing out. Yeah. Because really our job as youth pastors is to empower students to do things that they can't do themselves. And so that's the easiest route. You say, what am I asking my students to do? Go to the campus, start a mini church, start a small youth group. Reach their friends. I think, Andrew, this is one of the clearest ways, and if I was a youth pastor again, and I've been out of it for 8 years doing Youth Alive, but I would spend the majority of my time with students that I see leadership abilities in that would start and plant clubs. One of the things I love that Lucas does, I think, Lucas, you correct me, you do this once a month on Sunday after church. You do a campus club leader kind of leadership session, lunch, talk to them, brainstorm, dream, all that kind of stuff. In fact, why don't you jump in and tell what you do?
Yeah. Well, honestly, this year, I give credit where credit's due. One of our younger guys, Andrew Holland, and so he's worked with Kyle on Youth Alive and different things, and so he was an FCA leader. He's working with us, and I've kind of passed the torch to him, and kind of just said, hey, be my hands and feet when I can't be there. And he's really taken the reins of our campus clubs and helping us under, obviously under my leadership and under our senior pastor's leadership and different things. But he's really just kind of been our mouthpiece to our student leaders. And so once a month, he meets with them, and then I'm there probably every other with them as well. And really what we do is we sit down, give them hands-on training, hands-on resources, talk about the clubs. We might feed them lunch occasionally. We might go to Topgolf, go bowling with them at the end of the year, stuff like that. But really what we're trying to establish is a monthly leadership training for them on their school campus. And so we talk about what they're facing, what they're doing. We get the resources from that they need from us, and then we provide them with resources monthly. And so I think that's been something that's huge for us. So we have summer trainings, we have different things, and yeah, you're going to run into students that can't make it monthly, obviously can't be there every single time, especially the ones that aren't part of our church and aren't in our youth group. But the greatest thing that we have is just an opportunity, and we can't forsake those opportunities because they're not publicly attended, stuff like that. So as much as we can do, we're doing, and so that's just kind of our goal. And we're not going to hold ourselves to some high expectation, but we're just going to simply say whatever we can do, we're going to do it. And so that's kind of where we're at with our campus club leaders on a monthly basis. So
cool. I think this next question I have, I don't think I would be the only one to ask this. But talking about getting your own students, obviously you want to have your own students involved. You want to be directly involved as a youth pastor. Is it okay, especially if starting a campus club, to directly, man, Kyle, you need some sun on those legs. Like glow in the dark. But is it okay to directly affiliate your youth group with that campus club?
I've never shied around if someone's asked me where I'm from, but I don't go in there preaching Genesis Church.
But you're not trying to call it like Genesis Campus Club or Genesis whatever.
Yeah, we're not trying to do that. Just because, like I said, we have different people from different churches helping out. And honestly, some of your students' best classmates that can come beside them and help lead those clubs, they might not go to your youth group. And so, how strong is a campus club with one church behind it, and then how much more strong can that campus club be if they have three churches behind it? Yeah. And so, three students from different churches helping be the leadership of that club. And so now one danger with that, and I'll just throw it out there, is different agendas and different teachings and biblical stances. And so it is important to know where those students are coming from and knowing what's being taught in the campus clubs. And so that's why we really strive not to go into gray areas, not to go into things that are really going to kind of be denomination-based on the teaching and stuff like that. But obviously, as many churches behind these clubs, the better, because that's what the church is. It's one body, and so that's what we strive for.
Yeah, I asked that. I mean, kind of expecting that answer, and because where I am, there's in like a 1.5-mile radius, there's like 5 huge churches.
Yeah.
And all different denominations. A lot of big Baptist background, and so it's like, we could come in guns a-blazing trying to start this campus club and totally end up ruining something because there's no involvement with that, but then also too trying to I guess balance where we stand, where they stand, balance we're all on the same team type thing. So kind of this is kind of a double whammy, double question for you. FCA, Kyle, you mentioned FCA. Lucas, you mentioned FCA. I mentioned FCA. Tyler, say FCA so we can all have said it.
FCA.
Perfect. We've all brought it up. So I guess my question, now is, what do I do? So say I'm a youth pastor coming in to a school that does, because there's no way all of these schools have campus clubs.
Yeah.
So what do I do coming in if one already exists? And so that's kind of a separate question. Sub-question being, if that campus club is FCA that does already exist, how do I work with that? I mean, Kyle, you talked about creating multiple groups, which I think is great if it's done well. At the same time, it's like, do we compete with FCA? You know, do we, as much as I want to say let's join alongside FCA, some schools, the high school over here is, I mean, they have FCA in the field house, and about 4 kids come, you know, but it's like that's not opening a door for anybody. That's not, students aren't coming to that. It's not healthy. It's not growing. And so it's just, do you compete with FCA? Do you join alongside FCA? Do you try to just do something totally separate? You know, kind of. I know that may be a difficult question, but how do you handle existing clubs and FCA?
Yeah, well, I think one of the greatest things for a youth pastor to do, especially getting your foot in the schools, is to talk to those FCA leaders and just simply see what they need. And so even if your students are going to start a different club, you can still support FCA. You can still be there for them, and you can still speak for them. I mean, they're bringing in youth pastors. What I've learned is a lot of FCA leaders, especially coaches that are taking care of FCA, they're longing for youth pastors and for people from the community to come in and teach, because that's just something else on their plate. And so they're looking for people to do that. And so that's a great opportunity to go in and speak to the FCAs. And then see where they're at too. And so if that coach is, I mean, they only have a few students come and yada yada, just kind of talk to them and say, hey, I have some students that might be interested in helping out. What can we do? How can we partner together? And then if you just think that their time frame, what they're doing is not going to be on the same page as what you are looking to do with your students and your students are looking to do, then simply go ahead and start navigating that out and what that new club's going to look like, but still have that good relationship. Yeah. You know, we did something, 7 Project, about a year and a half ago at one of the high schools here with Kyle and his team, and you were there, so you were part of the team then at McKinney North. And so, but basically one of the things that we did was had FCA, we had another Christian club, and then we had our Christian club, all kind of partnering together with student council, different things like that. And it really helped the leadership base and the actual promotion of the event because we had good relationships with all those clubs. And so you definitely don't burn any bridges. You know, go to them first before anything happens. So,
Kyle, you got anything for that one?
Yeah, just simply, man. And I know you're not insinuating this, but FCA is your friend.
Yeah.
These other clubs are your friend. None of these are your enemy. FCA's been around since like the 1950s. They got a lot more credibility, name. The FCA name goes so far in schools.
Yeah.
So work with them.
I think
with them.
They use
try to make it happen.
Yeah. I was saying, I think up here FCA is more just the base name for the.
Yep.
Like they're using that name to make something happen.
Yep. And what I found, Andrew, is name really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's just all about that one thing I said earlier, leader, leader, leader. If you have the right leader, you're doing the right stuff, you can call it whatever.
Yeah. I've got 2 more main questions. I guess one being the easier question, which is, what is just, I mean, the best way, as a youth pastor, what is the best way for me to support a campus club from this standpoint as a youth pastor? Obviously, I want to be involved. Obviously, I want to be there, but just as far as really just getting behind it, supporting it, not necessarily taking charge.
Yeah.
What is the best way for me to support?
Well, obviously, being there is probably the number one thing, and then also celebrating. I mean, celebrating the wins, celebrating those things. And, you know, and I've always heard it said like this: for every critique, have 2 compliments. And I think that goes a long way with students overall. And so if you go there, obviously talk to them beforehand. If they're your students, be like, hey, I want to meet with you every so often and just kind of talk about how your club's going. what I've observed and what you guys can do, what y'all are doing right, what y'all could do better, and just have that kind of conversation. Obviously, like I said, relationship is directly related to leadership.
Yeah.
And so you can have that relationship with those students, and y'all can have honest conversations about how the clubs are going. That's the number one thing. I mean, students want to know that they're making an impact, and if they have their youth pastor behind them saying, "Dude, you're doing it right," and you're making a huge impact, they're gonna keep going. That's gonna light that fire on the inside of them. And so that's one thing. Other than that, I mean, obviously, talk to your senior pastor, talk to your leadership at the church. What can we do financially to help resource these? Because I think that does go a long way. Even if it's $10 a month, that's a gift card of 2 gift cards, as giveaways, or maybe that's 2 pizzas. I don't know what it is, but as small as it seems, it can still go a long way, especially those students knowing that their youth pastor has their back, and that they want to help make a difference. So I think that's the number one thing, is just being in their corner at all times. Not critiquing them too hard, but giving them honest feedback, and then just being there for them.
Yeah. Final question from me, at least. I guess I'll close with totally like, what advice do you have for young youth pastors? Just generic or whatever, wherever you want to take that. I'll close with that. But I think again, I think I wouldn't be the only one to ask this, and this is more of an intense question, I guess, but legitimately speaking, aside from all of the, you do it for the students, you get behind them, blah, 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 we want to win the schools, real question is why put the energy? So, because we have busy weeks, some of the guys that are full-time, like, you do a lot more than people see. The guys that are bivocational, you're working 2 jobs, and even though this is a small window of your day, it's still another thing in your schedule, another thing you're involved with, another thing you're thinking about, working with, planning. And so I ask, just why put energy into something like a campus club versus putting that same energy directly towards discipleship for your own group, for your own students, or directly towards like just being intentional with something dealing directly with your own students. Why worry about the campus versus your own youth ministry?
Hey, Lucas, before you answer that, Andrew, amazing question. This is the question of the day. I love this. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Yeah, definitely. I think that to answer it in a simple form, and I'll kind of dive into it a little bit, but there's some things in ministry that we do with the intention of producing fruit. But then there's some things that we do in ministry that we do with the intention of producing roots. And I think that Campus Club is one of those things that we do with the intention of producing roots. And so what that's going to mean is that we're setting up our community for success. We're setting up our community for growth and for spiritual growth and different things by being on our campus clubs. And in turn, we reap that harvest in our church. We reap that harvest in the churches around us. And so it's benefiting the kingdom, not just benefiting whatever kingdom church that you're at that moment. And so I think that it's a huge thing. It's a reaping and sowing thing that we want to pour into those around us, not just directly under us. Obviously, we want to do that too. But like I said, we'll produce fruit in our own groups, and we'll also produce some seeds and some deep harvests and deep things like that. But we're looking at producing roots in the schools. We're looking at producing roots in the community, and that's just going to give the kingdom a better foundation all around us, and that's really going to kind of help what God wants to do around us, not just through us, but around us. So that's why a really good thing for us to do as campus ministries.
Yeah, but to kind of be a healthy skeptic of it, I'm not against campus clubs at all, but to kind of be a healthy skeptic with that is, especially if it's something that's student-run or it's run by a teacher, coach, whoever. Obviously, you want to be a good youth pastor. You want to be there. You want to have your students back. At the end of the day, though, you're adding more time to your schedule. You're getting up early, or you're staying later, or you're stepping away from the office, and you're pouring resources into something that really, I think, as a youth pastor, you're going to potentially feel a lot of discouragement from, because you're pouring, anytime you pour energy into something and you don't get like reciprocation, or you don't, not that we're always doing it for recognition or anything like that, but, pouring into a student club or a campus club, and you're not really feeling like you're, because honestly right now the FCA I'm involved with, love it, it's great, love being there, but it's like not that I want them to let me speak every week, that's even more responsibility on me, but I'm thinking, what am I really doing here? I feel like as a youth pastor, like, you're going to get discouraged because your involvement doesn't, like, you don't feel the satisfaction of doing ministry or of getting anything out of it or seeing. You're not. I say that with this question because it's almost like, why would I not, so if I'm going to buy donuts, why not just buy donuts for my Bible study that we have on the weekends, or my small group, or why not buy it for my students, that I know will appreciate it. I'll see them, we'll all be eating it, stuffing our faces happy. Why put resources and money or time towards something that we're really not going to see, or potentially not going to see a lot of this fruit back, or a lot, I'm thinking healthy skeptic.
Yeah. I think that one of the main things is, this is my personal experience. I don't know if this is going to be a solution for everybody, but for me, I've had access to students that I wouldn't normally have access to at a school club. And so, and some of those kids, they might attend other youth groups, they might attend no church at all. And then basically, when I go on that campus, I become their youth pastor. And so in a way that they look at me, and they look at me as a figure that they can talk to. I give rides home to students that need to walk home, different things like that wouldn't normally happen in our own group. And so I have that access there. And so I think that is one of the reasons why, is because we're not just called to be the salt and light in our youth groups, but we're also called to be salt and light in our communities. And so we're given an example to our students when we show up on campus that we care about their classmates. They need to care about their classmates. And so that's definitely one of the reasons why I find refreshment in it. I do find it refreshing. But here's another thing, and I know we got to close, but here's another thing. I try to rally our leadership team around the campus clubs, so it's not just me. So it's not just me producing, giving my time and taking time out of my week to do something. I'm also getting other people involved in it, and so it's not just Pastor Lucas sitting down and taking out time and resources for these campus clubs, but our leadership team is doing that. And so I think that helps youth pastors a lot. So even if you're bivocational, whatever, you can still find a couple people and strive for those parents or a couple people to really help with that. And I think that's a huge key. So
is it worth it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Every part of it.
And I'll echo what Lucas said. Lucas, thank you. That was a very, very well thought out and appropriate answer to that question Andrew asked. And Andrew, let me answer it like this on my end. I agree with what he said. And I'm going to add that you just never know.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. You never know what the outcome's going to be. Let's be really honest. You're a youth pastor. I've been a youth pastor. You're pretty discouraged after some of your own Bible studies in your church.
Yeah.
Some of your own youth services are unfruitful, so you might think. Sometimes it doesn't seem like someone's listening during Sunday school or that small group on a Sunday night. All of it is planting. That's youth ministry. We're planting, and as youth pastors, more than likely, we'll never see the fruit. The fruit's going to be someday when they're in college, someday when they're married, when they have kids. And as a job, we're just simply to plant. And you just never know what's going to end up. And I like what Lucas said. The more fields you plant in, the more harvest you're going to have. So if you stay small-minded and say just your little youth group, then you're going to only reap the harvest from that youth group. But if you plant it in middle schools and high schools and youth groups and other churches and all these different places, one day you will reap a huge harvest of things you planted.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yep.
All right. So, hey, guys, Lucas, thank you for being on the call. Tyler, thanks for helping control and make this thing look good. Enjoyed all your questions today. Andrew, thanks for kind of being the dummy, walking through what if, how to with campus clubs. And all you probably right now 514 youth pastors listening and watching to this call. Man, get out on the campus. It's worth it. You'll enlarge your leadership. You'll be a better communicator. You'll build relationships. Like Lucas said, it will be worth it. Get on the campus, get involved in campus clubs, and you're going to see a big difference in your life and in your students' lives. You guys have a good one. We'll check back with you in a couple months for our next segment of Youth Alive Roundtables.